Okay, it is now 6 p.m. and I hereby call this meeting of the San Benito County Planning Commission to order. If we could please read the notice of temporary procedures.
Dealing with an echo. Okay. The San Benito County Planning Commission welcomes your comments. Each individual speaker will be limited to a presentation total of 3 minutes. When addressing the commission via Zoom, phone, or in chambers, please state your name and county in which you reside for the record. Please address the commission as a whole through the chair. If participating via Zoom, select the Participants tab and click the Raise Hand icon. If you are using a phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. When your turn arrives, you will hear that you have been unmuted. If you are participating in person at the chambers, please complete a speaker card identifying the item on which you wish to speak and provide your completed card to the clerk prior to consideration of the item. Speaker cards are available on the table at the entrance to the chambers.
Thank you. The Pledge of Allegiance, Commissioner Bianchi, if you could please lead us in the pledge. Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If we could get a roll call, please.
Rodney Bianchi.
Present.
District 2, Richard Way.
Present.
District 3, Robert Scaliotti.
Present.
District 4, Robert Gibson.
Present.
District 5, Celeste Toledo.
Present.
All commissioners present.
Thank you. Department announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, members of the public, good afternoon. From time to time, the department announces different projects that come in and entitlements for review that the planning department is reviewing. But this last month, we did not receive any new entitlements. So at this point, there's nothing to report in that regards. But we do have Ariel, who's going to be presenting some information to the Planning Commission regarding some special meetings and so forth.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, good evening, Chair and fellow commissioners and public. As always, we're improving our department operations, and so one of the things that we got some really good feedback on was to basically include as part of our department announcements items that the Planning Commission has requested to see and what's coming up on the rest of the remainder of the calendar year. So this basically shows what's previously passed and what's coming, and then a few items to schedule. And so this is what I'm looking for tonight. We have our affordable housing regulation revisions that was requested by the board. It has been previously requested to have any ordinance revisions be a special meeting, but we could also have this on a regular agenda in either July or August. I'm hoping to get some feedback on dates of availability.
Anybody's calendar look good for July?
Mine's open.
Generally, we like to schedule them still on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. That's when the general public's is used to seeing our Planning Commission meetings. So if there's any Wednesdays that don't work in either the month of July or August, just let me know and I'll schedule around those for both the affordable housing, our zoning code, and then we also need to schedule a scoping meeting for Ranch 35.
Okay. I'm clear. Rodney?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
clear.
Rich?
I'm clear.
Celeste?
I'm good.
Okay, so fire away for July. Let's get work done.
July and August. Okay, perfect. I will get those scheduled.
Thank you.
And send out email updates. The other items, in order to get them on the schedule, we'll be in touch with the Economic Development Council regarding SEDS and putting that on the calendar. We'll also get the homeless presentation on the calendar in the upcoming months. And we did have our joint general plan review done earlier this month, but we're going to bring back probably either in July a follow-up to kind of what came out of that for both the Plan Commission and the board.
And did you have the dates for the EDCs having their SEDS sessions, their public sessions? Did you happen to have those?
I do not have those available, but I'll email them out to you.
Okay. Well, I know one is June 30th, which is a Friday from 6 to 7 at the admin, here in the board chambers.
Okay.
And I believe the other one was July 6th, but don't quote me on it, but they're coming up soon, so
Okay.
please attend, folks. Thank you.
That was all I had to go over. You can kind of see, July right now is canceled, but I believe we'll be adding in a meeting with some of these things to get scheduled. So be ready to meet again. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thank you. No more department announcements?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have public comment. Is there any public comment for items that are not on this evening's agenda but are under the purview of the Planning Commission? Any general public comment?
I do not have any comment cards for any general public comment.
And anything via Zoom?
I have no hands raised via Zoom.
Okay, public comment is closed. Consent agenda. Under the consent agenda, we have the acknowledgement of certificate of posting. We also have meeting minutes for 4 meetings. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? None noted. Okay. Is there a motion on the table?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Thank you. Regular agenda. Public hearing, item 9.1.
Mr. Chair, if I may, when the agenda came out, after the agenda came out, we did get contacted by the attorney of item number 9.4, and that's PLN 200031, and that's the 4th item on the public hearing. And if it is the request of the applicant and the attorney to ask if they can continue this matter. There was some items on the staff report that grew concern in regards to general plan policy, and they were asking to see if they can, be able to address those items. And so, if it's up the will of the chair and the commission, we were asking to see if we can put that item first to discuss that and see if it's the will of the board of the commission to continue it, or if you prefer just to leave it as is, and when we get to it, we'll discuss whether to continue or not. It's totally up to you, Mr. Chair, and the commission.
Okay. Commissioners, do you see any reason to continue the item? Because the request is indefinitely. Do you see any point in moving this item first and continuing it, or what is the will of the commission?
Personally, I would rather leave it where it is for the simple reason that it may require more discussion than some of the other items, and that would give us time to not give short shrift to the other items.
Okay.
Good for me.
I agree. Okay. So the consensus is to leave it where it is.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
Thank you. Item 9.1. Public hearing and consider adopting a resolution regarding county planning file PLN 220060, a use permit to allow the operation of Bar SZ Ranch.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, and members of the public. Staff requests that the Planning Commission continue this public hearing to a later date for further assess and evaluate the potential environmental impacts and consequences of the proposed project.
Is there any public comment for this item, being that it was posted?
There's no public comment in chambers, and I have no public comment via Zoom.
Okay, Commission, do we want to continue this item, or what are our options, Joel? Can we proceed regardless of a request for continuance?
Well, generally speaking, the commission rules on requests for continuance. The general policy is to try and have a complete application and information before the commission before the commission acts on it, and staff would like additional time to do review of environmental consequences.
What kind of timeline are we looking at? Because this has been in business since, what, July of 2022?
December of 2022. Yes.
December of 2022, okay. What, do we have a time certain on this?
Hopefully in the short term, yes.
August, our August meeting?
Possibly a little later,
August.
September.
What is the, it's just for environmental review that you need an extension?
Yes.
Can I ask a question? This is for
Absolutely.
the first item,
Yes.
9.1? Okay.
Correct. Commissioner Way, you have any thoughts?
Well, I'm in favor of getting all the information
Mhm.
before we make a decision, but not indefinitely. And I agree that September seems a little late. I would support a continuance to August. Could we, well, no, that won't work. Never mind, sorry, just thinking out loud.
August, yeah, that's what I was thinking. We might have to push you for time.
Okay.
Commissioner Bianchi?
Well, are we having events out there now?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this is currently a code enforcement case, and they do advertise their services on their website.
Can we bring it to the July Planning Commission meeting with an update of how much time is needed in order to properly review?
Yes, but please expedite it.
Okay.
Do we need a
Is-
motion to do?
Yeah.
Is that going to be July 19th?
Yes.
Yes, we'll bring an update to the July,
Okay.
regularly scheduled
Is-
July 19th.
Is there a
Planning Commission meeting.
motion to continue this to the July 19th meeting for a discussion of a timeline?
Before we do that, I thought I saw, and apparently I'm mistaken, that the July meeting wasn't going to happen.
We have items to schedule, including the affordable housing regulations,
All right.
and some that I could add on to.
Okay, I must be hallucinating. I thought I saw
It-
that there was.
It was, because we didn't have items, but if there's
see.
items being continued, then we would have an
Okay,
agenda.
thank you.
Just to be expeditious with the business of the county. Okay, any other,
Yeah, quick question. Is there any fines or things that they have not paid in the back? Or is everything, what's the code enforcement that's not being taken care of at this moment?
The notice of violation on their specified that they need a conditional use permit approval in order to rectify the code enforcement case.
And so they thought they were gonna do all this without a
permit?
permit? They've been doing this all this year and a half without a permit, and now they wanna come and be forward with us? Yes or no?
Yeah, yes.
Well, it's better to get the permit eventually than not to get it at all, but, yeah, I share
That's not where I
your,
was going with it.
Okay.
I believe that the code violation's been noted and that they have been essentially red tagged from conducting additional events at the venue until such time as they have obtained a permit.
Okay.
So they're gonna wanna get this expedited too, I'm assuming, correct? Okay.
So
Yes.
all events will be on hold until July, until we can figure out the next
Exactly.
step? Okay.
Is that,
Have all the fines been paid? Are we up to current on fines?
Not at the moment, but we are working on adding a condition of approval for their permits, so all fees are paid before they can commence operations.
I think the fines should be paid before they even bring it to us.
okay, what is the will of the commission? Is there a motion on the table?
Yeah, I move we go ahead and bring it back on July 19th.
For an update?
For an update on the, but I think, well,
Okay, is there a second?
yeah, I'll second that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. 9.2, public hearing and consider adopting a resolution regarding county planning file PLN 230013, a use permit to allow the operation of a fresh produce distribution business, etc.
Stephanie, how do I share my presentation? I have it here.
Okay, you just press this.
This is his first public.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, and members of the public. I am Victor Tafoya, Assistant Planner. Tonight I will be discussing PLN 230013, the Alcala Use Permit, located at 121 Harborn Way. So today I will be discussing the location of the project, project description, project site, site plan, land use consistency with the general plan and zoning code, CEQA, and staff recommendations. The project is located at 121 Harborn Way, approximately 1 mile northeast of the intersection of Highway 25 and Fairview Road. The property site is 5.4 acres. The property is zoned rural. By the general plan, the property is designated as residential mix. The subject property is situated in a serene rural environment where tractor noises, farm animals, and other agricultural activities are common. Adjacent to the site are neighboring properties with similar acreage used for rural residents, orchards, and grazing. The project involves a fresh produce distribution business with the following on-site operations that include storage of box trucks, storage of fresh produce in the existing structure. Business operations are from Monday to Friday, 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. A total of 4 employees in addition to the residents are on site. The fresh produce business is family-owned. The business sources fresh produce from the Los Angeles market and distributes it to larger grocery stores in the Bay Area, Central Coast, and Central Valley. Upon receiving the produce, it is unloaded and moved to the barn on site where it is carefully inspected for quality and sorted based on the orders placed by the grocery stores. To ensure a timely deliveries within the specified time frame of 12 p.m., the business relies on 3 refrigerated box trucks that depart at 5 a.m. After completing the deliveries, the trucks return to the property around 1 or 2 p.m., and the process repeats for subsequent deliveries. Currently, the property has a code enforcement violation for operating a business without the required permits. The approval of a conditional use permit would rectify this violation and formally authorize the business operation. Here you have a close-up floor plan and front view elevation of the existing structure. It is important to note that prior to the commencing any commercial activities on the property, the applicant shall obtain all necessary building permits and ensure that the existing facilities, including but not limited to the structure, the accessory structure, are brought up to code and adequately modified to meet the requirements for commercial use. This includes, but is not limited to, ensuring compliance with safety regulations, accessibility standards, sanitations, and hygiene requirements, and any other applicable building codes. The project applicants shall work closely with the building department to obtain necessary permits and complete any required upgrades or modifications within a reasonable time frame. Here you have site photos of the property showcasing Harbor Way, the residence driveway, produce loading area, and parking area of the box trucks. Here you have a site plan of the property. The highlighted area in the red indicates the location of the existing accessory structure where business operations take place on the property. So the property has designated parking area behind the residence to accommodate the 3 refrigerated trucks, with each parking space measuring 9 feet in width and 8 feet in length. 2 employee parking spaces are designated on the left-hand side of the residence. As you can see, it's gonna, this is truck parking, and then the employee parking is gonna be on the side of the residence. The site is under residential mixed land use designation in the San Benito County 2035 General Plan. This designation intends for some commercial uses while also allowing agricultural uses, such as sale of agricultural produce grown on premises. The project meets or fulfills implementation program EDH, new and existing business support. The project would reflect the program's direction to develop incentives to attract new investments and support existing local businesses, particularly small locally owned businesses. Moreover, the project meets or fulfills general plan policy ED 1.2, job housing balance. The project activities generate economic activity, create employment opportunities, and foster trade relationships. This direct contribution to the job housing balance aligns with the county general plan policy. The property is also currently subject to the rural zone, a designation different to the general plan designation of the same name in terms of land use and intensity of use. The rural zone allows agricultural in general with County Code 25, Section 25.03.004, allowing a conditional use permit for agricultural processing of products not grown on site. Agricultural processing involves the sorting, packaging of produce in a covered and or enclosed structure for shipment or sell. The proposed project is consistent with these uses. Pursuant to the San Benito County local guidelines for the California Environmental Quality Act, this project qualifies for the exemptions on the screen. The project operates within an accessory structure that already exists. The project involves the ongoing operation and maintenance of an existing structure. Furthermore, the project states no major modifications are needed to the accessory structure. The project does not involve any significant expansion or alteration of the existing structure, and the use of the structure for the business operations is consistent with the agricultural support uses permitted under rural zoning, such as agricultural processing, which is the sorting, packaging of produce in a covered and/or enclosed structure. Uses beyond these which are permitted in the zoning district are to be restricted by zoning ordinance. Moreover, the project would be subject to the conditions of approval. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the staff report and resolution, hold the public hearing, hear any proponents and opponents of the proposed project, find the project exempt from CEQA, and recommend the adoption of the resolution to approve the use permit PLN 230013. Do you have any questions?
Commissioners, do you have any questions before we go to public comment? Commissioner Scagliotti?
I have one. The produce, is it hauled in, and what time is the produce hauled in? You said the produce is not grown on site, right?
Correct.
What time do they expect these trucks to be coming down through Harper Way?
Yes, so produce is picked up from the LA market Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. They depart the property at 4 p.m. To arrive at 12 a.m. when the market opens in LA, and they come back around, I believe it was 2 p.m. On the day.
Okay.
Commissioner Way?
Yeah, I have a question regarding the CEQA exemption. I understand that we're using existing facilities as the reasoning for it being exempt from CEQA. I'm not sure that that makes sense to me in this context, because it's a business that was established at one point without a permit, and now they've come to us for a permit, but they just automatically get an exemption from CEQA because it's a fait accompli. It seems as though I don't think this would have been subject to CEQA. First of all, I'm not arguing that we need to do a CEQA process on this. I just wonder about the reasoning for why it's exempt.
Yeah, so the accessory structure there has been on the residence since the property owners have bought the property.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Toledo?
As I'm still learning the process, but the building where the produce will be going into is this one here, right? The little barn or looking?
Yes, that is the structure that's there.
Okay, and I have not gone to the site, but is that building up to the code that, building codes I'm sure we have? Because it doesn't look stable or workable from this picture, but I'm not sure. It could be, very well could be.
Yeah, you might be right, and that's why we have a condition of approval that the applicant will work with our building department to see whether that's the case.
Okay, yes, because I'm a little concerned with the roofing, and I do have more concerns about that. But I would like to. I'm not sure if this is we're gonna approve this today, but I'm worried about that. Also, you said there's a violation. Code enforcement, was it a verbal or was it a written warning, and did it have a fee?
It was a written notice of violation that was sent out to the applicant. There is a fee associated with that, and as soon as the conditional use permit is approved.
Has that fee been paid, or are we waiting for us to approve it and then that fee is just waived, or?
So all code enforcement fees with the violation that they have will be paid in full prior to the commencement of their operation. That's a condition written on the approval of this permit.
So it will be paid for?
It will be, yes.
Okay. And I think that's it for now.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. I don't know who can answer this, but I mean, this is the second item that's on our agenda that basically is don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. I mean, I'm not saying I'm opposed to this, but is why are we getting stuff after the code enforcement goes out? Now all of a sudden they're bringing it to get a permit. I just have a real issue with this process. And I mean, that's kind of the whole, you hear out on the street, well, San Benito County, just go ahead and build it. They may catch you eventually, and then you just go in and get your permit. I'm not happy with either of these, the way they're going down, that basically they've come to us now because they got caught. How long have they been in business?
They have been in business for quite a while. I believe since 2008. The applicant is also here if you have any questions for them.
Mr. Chair, if I may. So yeah, that's a really good question, Commissioner Bianchi. That the county, my understanding is that for pretty much prior to COVID and around COVID time, has been operating with one code enforcement officer contracted. And just recently, about a little bit of, maybe 7 months ago, it's been a little bit over 6 months, we have actually hired a full-time code enforcement officer, a gal by the name of Robin Leland, has been great, former police officer, and has been really going out there to be do these inspections, send out notice of violations, and essentially to correct the issues. And so essentially these items that have the item before you and the item prior to this one, essentially this is the first step that should have taken place. They should have came before you to get these to get the approvals. Since they didn't, the corrections are to do the things right, to bring them back before you, but the notice of violation does have fines with it as well. And so those are the requirements right now as it stands. The requirement is to come and correct it, whether you approve it or you don't approve it. If you don't approve it, then they can't continue on this site, but the violations are still there, the fines are still there. If you do approve it, then they would be able to proceed, but not until they fix other, like Victor was saying, condition number 22 addresses what Commissioner Toledo was saying about making sure that the building is up to code, not only with building, but also environmental health, all the sanitary requirements and everything. And prior to operation, all fees for code enforcement also be paid. And then at that point, they would continue. But yeah, absolutely. The goal is that it appears that we are working with the board, and if it all goes well, we may even have a second code enforcement officer full-time to be able to do a little bit more work out in the community.
Can I add to that,
Yeah.
Abraham? So just so everyone knows up here on the board, there are community members who aren't aware of permits in general in our community. So I know it's a little frustrating for us, but there are people in our community who don't know that they need a permit to sell food items or have a business. So I know it may be a little frustrating. The good thing is that we do have code enforcement, which is nice now, but I just wanted to put it out there because I have, I'm not saying I have family members, but I know community members who just don't know. So I just wanted to let you guys know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from the commission before we go to public comment? Commissioner Scagliotti?
I have one. Does this building even come close to meeting food safety standards? I mean, I'm in the agricultural industry, and this is nowhere near anything it should be to meet food safety that's being handled by hand and going to people in markets. It's not even close.
So the applicant has their permits, one which includes from the state of California, from the Department of Public Health, Food and Drug Branch, and they do get inspections to meet the food safety standards.
Do they have that license with them?
Yes, they do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any public comment? Unless the applicant wants to speak, is there any public comment?
Yes, there appears to be one
But
public comment.
the applicant wants to speak. If you'd come to the podium, sir, so we can get you on the
And
record.
please just state your name for the record.
Good afternoon. My name's Osvaldo Alcala, the son of the property owner, Gerardo Alcala. I understand your frustration. Pretty much, I've been taking over the business when I got out of the military in 2015. The issue is that my dad has had the business since back in like 98, 2000. We were in Watsonville, in an industrial zone with all the permits, everything. So our business is like 30 years old. We have all the required licenses from everybody. Unfortunately, in 2008, when the recession happened, my dad fell into a place where it was like save our ranch or save the warehouse, right? Eventually, it was like we can't live in the warehouse, so they decided to save the ranch and then maybe work from there. They started working there like 2008, like around 2011. Back then, I mean, I was still not aware of business, permits, anything like that. So once I got out of the military, I told my dad, I was like, well, you know what, I'm interested in taking over the business. And from there on, I've been like learning all the process, right? Like getting the requirements. And then I guess this happened because one of our front neighbors put a complaint to the building department. That's how I became aware. I was like, oh, like I didn't know we needed like certain special permits, right, for to operate from here. But I mean, I've been working with Victor to resolve any issues that comes to mind. The structure, the roof was replaced with the permit like 5 years ago, I think. So we applied for that and it was approved. The whole structure was already there. All we did was the interior of it, where we just added a walk-in cooler. I mean, we did it ourselves, and then we pretty much did all the standards that we had to do for the state, like we had in Watermill. So whenever they came and inspected, I mean, it got approved. So I mean, all we're waiting for is you guys' approval to fix whatever you got to be fixing and then continue. At the moment, economy is not so good. Produce is off the roof, so like it's really expensive. So, like I told Victor, I was like, if one day we actually expand even more, then eventually we're gonna have to move to an industrial park. Right now, it's just a family-owned business. My dad, me, and then 2 of my cousins, and then like workers is only 4. So that's the thing.
I appreciate your honesty. I have a question. So how has this process been? So I'm trying to get to the bottom of, is it people aren't getting permits because it's such a hassle? Or is it just they didn't know? Or, I mean, how is the process?
Okay, I mean, in our situation, like, we weren't aware. Like I said, like, once I started getting involved in the business, then I started learning, like, we have all the state licenses and to operate trucks and buildings, but we weren't aware about, like, the county stuff, right? Like, in Watermill, they have the city license and whatever they had to do with it. But when they transfer, it was like a quick transfer that they lose the warehouse and then they kind of have to come in because it's pretty much family legacy. So, I mean, that's where they make their money to pay the mortgage, to pay taxes, to pay everything. So, I mean, in our case, I mean, I wasn't aware. I'm pretty sure my dad wasn't aware. That's why.
No, I mean, I appreciate that. No, I mean, the process since you've been working with the planning department, how has it been?
Oh, it's wonderful. Like, any questions, like, I've been working with Victor, so anything, like, I don't understand, like, I'll talk to him and then he'll let me know, like, ASAP. So it's been good. I mean, they've been helping us pretty much take care of everything.
Okay, yeah, that's why I asked, because, I mean, I just trying to get to the bottom of why people don't, and I understand, you didn't know, I mean, but other people that are doing this, why not just come in here, ask the right questions,
Yeah.
do it the right way from the beginning, and then not have the hassle? I didn't know if it was a lot of hoops you had to jump through, and that's why people didn't want to do it. Maybe we need to streamline that, and that's why I was asking the question.
No, yeah, I mean, no, it's been good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any, Commissioner Toledo, do you have Commissioner Way?
Yeah, and maybe this is an unfair question because I'm asking you to speak for somebody else and to represent their view, which you undoubtedly would disagree with. But what was the basis for the complaint from the neighbor? What were they objecting to?
I mean, unfortunately, it's more of a racial thing. Like, he's been, he's like 80 years old, and not just with us, like the whole street has problems with him. He's one of the guys that, I don't like that, calls the county. I don't like this, calls the county. So for us, it was more like a racial thing. I even had a court yesterday regarding an incident with him. It got clear. I mean, he's 80 right now. I think he's really sick, but he's just been giving us a hard time ever since they moved there. He thinks we're doing illegal stuff, drugs, stuff like that. I mean, I don't have time to go and explain to him. He's the type of person you can't really talk to. All my other neighbors, they're really nice. They all know what's going on, but no complaints whatsoever.
Thank you. Commissioner Toledo?
I do have another concern about the building, but before I get there, I honestly believe it's a culture thing that our culture maybe, I don't know, some people just don't know. They want to go sell tamales, they want to go sell food items, and people don't know that they need to get a license. I'm not really sure why, but that's how I see it by culture. So that's why I wanted to make sure you guys understood that. But I could be wrong too. I'm just saying that. The building, I would like. I'm not sure if we're gonna approve it today, but I would like maybe pictures or to go see the actual building because I am concerned about the produce being inside the building. So as far as like sanitation reasons, but other than that, that's my other problem.
Those are part of the conditions of approval, that the building department signs off on the structure and that they have the proper and necessary permits for food safety. So it's all taken care
It's
of
already
in the
taken care of.
resolution.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, we had Commissioner Robert, he went down there, and then Victor and this gentleman went down there too, so they've gone and seen the stuff.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know that, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
And you're right about the Hispanic people is like, as long as they make money, they find ways to make money, legally or illegally, to sell tamales or whatever. Like I said, our business is different. Like, we've had licenses since Watermill, so we're an established business, everything
Okay.
up to state.
We appreciate that. And if we could go to public comment, please.
There is no public comment in chambers or via Zoom.
I thought there was. Okay. I will start off by saying that I did go out there Monday. I made a U-turn after work and thought I should go at least take a look at the road and see what condition the road's in. I also wanted to see the driveway. So I went out there and I talked to the gentleman and just poked around. So I was satisfied with the layout of the property as far as the purpose of their business. My only question is item 9 on the conditions. It limits the number of employees that don't live on site to 4. What is, I thought our number was 5 for rural home enterprise.
That is correct, and you can modify to move up to 5 if you'd like.
If we move to approve it, I would just like to keep it similar and change that number to 5. No harm, no foul. So I don't know what the rest of the commission's looking at doing.
I'm good with it. I mean, I got my questions answered. I appreciate your honesty, and I mean, I want to get some answers on, you know, why more people aren't stepping up and doing the whole application.
I've never seen one of these come before us, and this month it was just about everything. So it's interesting. I'm glad that code enforcement is finally
Doing their job.
working, and hopefully we will get a second one to bring our county into compliance. Anything else?
No, I move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Is that with the friendly amendment that we're going to change the number of workers to 5 to match our rural home enterprise?
Yes.
Accepted.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Next item. 9.3. Hold a public hearing and consider adopting a resolution regarding county planning file PLN 230026, an amendment to the county planning file PLN 190010 to discontinue the winery and tasting room for sale of on-site wine only and change it to a type 42 license.
All right. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners and public. My name is Jonathan Olivas. I am an assistant planner with San Benito County, and tonight I will be discussing PLN 230026, use permit amendment at 11736 Cienega Road. All right, my presentation is going to go over location, project description, site plan, CEQA, land use consistency, and staff recommendations. The project site is located at 11736 Cienega Road, approximately 10 miles south of downtown Hollister. The site is approximately 10 acres in size and is on the southwest side of Cienega. The site consists of rolling hillside with live oaks and grassland, and the surrounding land uses are primarily wineries and grazing land with some rural residential uses as well. Let's see. Okay. PLN 230026 proposes to amend county planning file PLN 190010 to establish the use of a wine tasting room only that allows for the service of wine and beer produced off-site. Under the prior approval of use permit PLN 190010, the applicant was allowed to run a winery with a tasting room for on-site product. The winery use will be discontinued as a result of the PLN 230026 amendment. All other operations and conditions of approval from PLN 190010 will remain unchanged. The site plan shows the floor plan of the existing building, which formerly housed the winery operations. As indicated on the site plan, the applicant is proposing to use the existing building for the wine tasting room and the other half of the building for storage. All of the minor modifications to bring the project into compliance with building code, fire, and ADA compliance were permitted and completed as part of PLN 190010. And this is a view of the existing building facing southwest. This is the rear and exterior views of the tasting room and the rear patio area. And the project can be found consistent with both the general plan designation and zoning ordinance under the previous permit, PLN 190010. The general plan use designation is rangeland. The project is consistent with general plan policies shown on screen, as it is located within the wine and hospitality combining district as shown, and is a support use that supports the wine industry. The project use as a wine tasting room is consistent with agricultural rangeland. The zoning as the project is allowed as a conditional use in that a wine tasting room is a support use for wineries, which is encouraged and consistent with the general plan as previously discussed. Although a winery will not be part of this amendment, the general plan envisions wine and hospitality uses in the area such as this project. The zoning code allows the general plan to take precedence through 25.01.005 relationship to the general plan. The proposed project has been determined to be categorically exempt from CEQA under existing facilities and new construction or conversion of small structures. This amendment proposes no expansion of the existing structure. It is a simple conversion of use to wine tasting room only versus the previous winery and wine tasting room. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the staff report and resolution, hold a public hearing, hear any proponents and opponents of the proposed project, and find the project exempt from CEQA. And staff further recommends that the Planning Commission approve use permit amendment PLN 230026 by adopting the attached draft resolution. Any questions?
Thank you. Before we go to public comment, do the commissioners have any questions, concerns, comments?
No.
None? We'll go to public comment. Is there any public comment?
There is no public comment in chambers or via Zoom.
Okay. I was up there in 2019 or so, prior to the approval for the permit for Mr. Van Dam. And I can't really recall, other than the house to the south, that I don't think I could see from the project site. Are there any other houses in sight view of the facility that may create privacy issues for residents that are in the area, or guests, I suppose?
There are no, when I went out to the site as well, there was no direct view of any other residences. You would have to go pretty far away from where they are proposing the existing building in use to be able to get a view of a residence. I believe that in general, the large amount of trees and oaks and all that already provide a lot of mitigation to that view. And I suppose, further mitigation could be something of either a fence line or maybe some bushes or something to kind of make the area more enclosed if the applicant were open to those kind of things.
Okay. Well, that's my concern. I think a mitigation measure to either fence off to keep the guests contained where they're not possibly accidentally peering at a neighbor, because we don't want bad relations. Traffic's already going to be an issue, but we'll worry about that. But I'm just concerned that there may need to be some fencing or something to keep guests from going up the hill where they will possibly have view into somebody else's home. So is the applicant here to speak about possible mitigation measures for that purpose?
They are, and if they'd like to come up and speak, they're more than happy to do that.
It was a number of years ago, and my memory's a little fuzzy about the elevations on the property.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Ronnie Douglas. The property is currently fenced, and the front driveway has a gate going across it, and it will only be open during open business hours. And I don't think, people would have to climb over a fence to get to a neighbor's place.
I'm sorry, I mean the view shed. If people get behind the wine tasting facility and climb up your property, up the hill, will they have any view?
What's up there is a view of Grass Valley. So what you're looking at pretty far away is vineyards, all as far as you can see. And from the roadside, you see all the cliffs and things all the way coming back towards Hollister, but you don't see houses.
So there's no housing to the west of the facility of your property?
I think down on Grass Valley Road, which would be thousands of feet away, there might be some. I know there's a barn back there in the vineyard, but I don't recall seeing a house.
Okay, thank you. I'll go back to Jonathan I'd like staff's comment on that issue. Thank you.
Sure.
I did receive a complaint from someone in the vicinity of that being a concern. However, I did also speak to the person. I said, I've been to the property, and I suppose it would be possible and feasible that you could see a residence to the north, but you would have to find a pretty good vantage point. However, to quell those concerns that have been addressed, if the applicant were open to that, we could do some kind of a fence or maybe some kind of greenery landscape just to further enclose the area, just so that there's no, just for good neighbor relations.
Does the engineer have any thoughts? Mr. Andrade.
Thank you, Commissioners. Alan Andrade, project engineer. The actual facility is centrally located on, it's 10 acres, Ronnie? 10 acres. It's a significant hike to get to a spot where you can see the neighbor to the north. To the south is Cienega School, which you wouldn't even realize if you're on the site because of the terrain and the visual and the screening from the natural vegetation.
Mm-hmm.
It's real hard for me to see that this site isn't already appropriately screened. But if there is an issue where a neighbor makes a call, that would be the time where you could take action specific to a specific complaint rather than hypothesizing about something that might not exist.
Okay. We'll deal with it if it comes. Sounds good. Commissioners.
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt the resolution. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Next item, 9.4. Hold a public hearing and consider adopting a resolution regarding county planning file PLN 200031, a use permit and grading permit at 4807 San Juan Canyon Road.
Good evening, Michael Kelly, Senior Planner, and I am here to talk about, once the switcher comes to the slideshow, I'm here to talk about Wilson Use Permit and Grading Permit 4807 San Juan Canyon Road. Again, if the switcher would come to the slideshow. Yes. I have on my, oh, there we go. The first thing I will say is that the applicant has requested that this be continued to a date uncertain. And I can continue describing the project as much as you would like, or as much as you would,
Okay.
or as little as you would like.
Thank you. Is the consensus of the commission that we want to hear this item this evening, or do we want to continue it for an unknown reason to a date uncertain? I myself would like to hear it this evening. Unless there's an excellent explanation of why it should be continued for 1 month, or let alone indefinitely.
I agree with the chair.
Me too.
Okay.
Okay, so we'd like to hear the item.
Like to hear the item.
No.
No.
Sure, feel free to speak to the continuance. If you come up to the podium, please.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Christine Kemp. I'm representing the Wilsons. We didn't receive the staff report until last Thursday. Excuse me. We were expecting that we had staff support for the project because they've been working very, very hard to comply and meet what the staff has requested. So we believed we were having a positive staff report. When we received the negative staff report, we met with them on Monday and said, we'd like to work with you to figure out how we resolve some of the issues that you've raised. They suggested that it would be good to ask for a continuance, and we said fine. We weren't quite sure how long it would take to resolve those issues, so we just did a date uncertain, so it would be renoticed. If you want to set a certain date, we're fine with that as well. So that was the request
Okay.
for the continuance.
Okay, thank you. County Council, is there any legal obligation of the Planning Commission to continue this item?
Well, the decision whether or not to continue it is within the discretion of the board. I think the applicant wishes to resolve some of the issues that have prompted the staff to recommend, and perhaps modify the application to remove some of the objectionable questions. So generally speaking, the policy that the county has pursued for many years, long before I got here, is where there are code violations, that to make every effort to bring them into compliance through the permit process. And if there are there's dialogue necessary to resolve issues that come up as a result of the staff review, then to attempt to resolve that. And it's entirely up to the
Okay.
commission whether or not to pursue that
Okay.
policy.
Thank you. It's your district. I'll start with Commissioner Way. Actually, no, it's mine, but it's close to yours. No, it's mine. Did you have any comments regarding the continuance, or would you like to pursue it this evening?
Well, I just wanted to ask, does staff still support the motion for disapproval, or does staff now support the continuance given the meetings that took place earlier this week?
At the moment, we would recommend the continuance,
I see,
at least a continuance.
I see. Thank you.
What are the thoughts of the other commissioners?
How long of a continuance do you need?
We want to be expeditious with these public hearings and not continue them.
Certainly. It would require, part of the issue is, in our meeting, we discussed removing a part of the project. And that would take away some of the possible impact. So we would not have to do further CEQA work necessarily, unless I'm to be corrected. It would, because the impacts would be less than what have been described in the CEQA document. So it would be a matter of a revised site plan, basically a plan that removes some of the engineering that's been shown on the plans that have been submitted. I'm not sure how long that might take, but it would nearly be, well, I might say too much without knowing what I'm talking about. It would be about removing that part of the, basically the upper building site that you see on the plan. That would be removed from the proposal, and it would only be the lower building site.
So the existing, the applicant is requesting the existing site be approved, and they're going to forego the major expansion that was proposed? Is that what you're saying?
The site where construction of a residence has already taken place, that would be removed from the plan. The house would be removed.
Okay.
The driveway, well, we'll discuss that, but the lower building site that has grading already, but does not have a building on it, would be, as we discussed, kept in the plan.
Okay. Commissioner Way?
I don't have a comment at this time.
Either way. Okay. Commissioner Scagliotti?
Has all this grading been done already without permits? Is this one of those ones that's coming to us again without permits, without any regard for the county at all? Is this another one of those?
The grading has taken place, yes. It is a code enforcement matter.
The applicant's been working for 5 years with the county. He spent $230,000 to get here. We thought we were getting a positive staff report. There is soils engineering, septic percolation borings. There has been a ton of work going into it. We were very surprised by the recommendation to not approve it. When we saw that last Thursday, we said, We could have been told that 5 years ago, but we weren't. So they've worked very, very hard to do what the county asked for under the compliance order. So we were surprised with the recommendation for denial. We would like to segregate out certain portions of it, the house up on the hill and the road up the house. That's way more controversial than the lower area that's right off San Juan Road, where they'd like to build a unit, a duplex unit with a garage underneath. So we'd like to separate out the one that has a much bigger grading issue, was built, and look at removing that and restoring that, and then come back with the lower project, what would be a house for Mr. Wilson with a storage underneath. So we really were blindsided by the report, honestly. We thought we were working, secret documents been done, $36,000 paid for that. We thought we were working towards an approval with conditions of approval. So we'd like to regroup and go back with the county and come up with some type of a resolution so that Mr. Wilson can have the house that he's looking for, but obviously removing a lot of what was done before.
Because yeah, I went out there Monday and it's quite a view from the road. It's quite steep, so I was surprised that anything was there, which I think is the nature of the code enforcement issue, correct?
There's varying degrees of it. There's a lower site where there may be some slope involved, but it's a lower site right off the road. Then the other site is way up the hill, up a driveway that went up that hill, and that's a much more egregious, if that's the word. That's a much steeper up to the top. And so that's the issue, that if that's what's really the issue, they would remove that, if that, so this just coming in on Thursday, and the first time we could get an opportunity to talk to county staff was Monday. We just thought, let's just pause for a minute and regroup to figure out how else we can resolve this.
Okay.
We thought we were resolving it in the way that they wanted it to be resolved, by doing all these reports and studies and all of that.
So, is there any public comment regarding this item?
Yes, Chair, there is one public comment via Zoom. Cindy Reeves, you have been unmuted. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, thank you for listening to us this evening. I just want to say my husband and I live across from the project area at 5,000 San Juan Canyon Road, and we have been witness to basically the destruction of the hillside over the course of 7 years it is. So to say that they only have had a week to resolve some of these issues, that's just untrue. I'll go forward with my comment. San Juan Canyon is a community of diverse yet mostly like-minded families who value a separate and quiet space surrounded by nature. Some even make their living protecting farming and open space. Many have lived here over 30 years. Our family has been living on our property for 28 years, and we have tried to incorporate nature into our space rather than excluding it. Most of the residents in our section of the canyon live on the opposite side of the proposed project and have witnessed what they were doing. This is over the years. When we first realized what was being done across the road, we considered it low impact and permitted. Within weeks, it was apparent that there was uncontrolled dislocation of large amounts of soil and trees. Many canyon residents separately contacted the county, only to find that no permits were granted at that location. We later learned that stop work orders had been given to the owners, yet these owners continued to carve up the mountain each weekend. And we could see that from our home. The county code enforcement and sheriff were called numerous times, but the digging did not stop. And this was 2017 to 2018. It was a stressful time for us watching the bulldozer on the mountainside. And even after they were stopped, we were unsure what the county would do next. I was relieved to read the staff report, and I thank you all for the time and effort putting it together. The report documented in detail what many of us have witnessed: cutting into the hillside, erosion, landslides, and many of the problems that you could see listed on page 5 of the staff report, and also in my letter dated June 5th, 2023 to Mr. Kelly. Based on our experience here in the canyon, the staff report and the history of the applicants demonstrated disregard for law and numerous violations. We are in support of the resolution to disapprove the conditional use permit and grading permit under County Planning File PLM 200031. Thank you.
Any additional via Zoom?
There is no more public comment via Zoom, and there does not appear to be any public comment in chambers.
Is there public comment in chambers? The gentleman that had his card in, the green card, I believe.
Please.
He's going to be coming to the podium.
Oh.
Thank you.
Please just state your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Lester Wickman. I live at, with my wife Rosemarie at 520 Hillside Road, San Juan Bautista. We moved there in May of 2016. It's about the same time that our neighbors Charles and Kyle Wilson at 4807 San Juan Canyon Road were grading the hillside west of us without a proper permit. The cutting of the non-permitted steep driveway caused large amounts of mud from the hillside cut to cross and obstruct the San Juan Canyon Road. The illegal driveway they continued to cut up the steep hillside has defaced the hillside to a point that the view from our property is very devastating. We only can imagine the ongoing erosion that must have occurred this winter with all our heavy rains. Our neighbors and you are aware of the red tags and the stop and desist orders the Wilsons were issued, but continued their illegal grading of the hillside anyway. Our other concern is the talk of the Wilsons' intent to open an off-road hillside climbing business or an off-road climbing events. If this were to happen, the increased erosion of the hillside and the noise pollution in our neighborhood would be unbearable. We are now aware the Wilsons are finally applying for permits to bless their illegal, devastating defacing of the hillside and to continue to expand their destructive invasion of the hillside. Our take on this request is to continue this non-permitted illegal intrusion of the hillside is to not be allowed without first correcting and repairing the damage they have already caused, if that's even possible. And then, after all the fines and fees they have incurred are paid in full, only then should any request for permits for any future work be considered. And if granted, the future work on the hillside should be reviewed and monitored closely, as they have demonstrated lack of concern for Mother Nature and their neighbors. I want to thank you for your time and effort on enforcing the rules and regulations on this intrusion into our neighborhood. I am here today to ask you to not allow any further damage to our beautiful canyon and for the correction of the damage the Wilsons have already caused.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I definitely have speaker cards. I forgot what item we were on. So Lynn Overtree.
Are we talking to the continuance or are we hearing the matter?
We're doing public comment.
We're gonna get through public comment first.
Okay,
and
well,
then
I
we'll
have
deal
public
with-
comment as well and a PowerPoint, and I'm just confused by the process.
Well, we had it agendized, so we want to hear what the public has to say. And we're still determining whether or not, how we're going to proceed from here.
And sorry, I have your speaker card, but you were at the podium speaking, so I thought you covered your public comment portion.
Well, she's the attorney for the applicant.
I was just commenting on the reason for the continuation, which was requested.
Yes, you did. You already explained that.
We'll call you up for the public comment period.
Okay, I have a PowerPoint. I'll leave with your secretary then if we're going to hear the full project.
We haven't determined that yet. But people have shown up, so we're going to pay them the respect and listen to their public comments, if that's okay.
Well, sure.
Thank you.
Understand the
Let's
process.
continue with public comment, please.
Okay, Lynn, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. My name is Lynn Overtree. I also live in San Juan Canyon Road. And I want to thank you commissioners and the staff at the county for the excellent work that they have done on this. The first few years of violations went largely unaddressed because of such staff limitations at the county, and it was very disturbing for us having to live there and watch the slides down the road, drive through them, et cetera. And it was heartbreaking to see that level of grading on the property. I do urge you to approve the resolution to disapprove the project. I furthermore encourage removal of all of the items that are currently there. I agree with Lester's observations. The buildings and stuff should come off. The hillside, I do GIS myself, and by my calculations, depending on what sections you're looking at, they range from about 41% to 43, 47, 52% if you went from the road up to the ridge line. And what first caught my eye as someone who works in conservation, land management for my whole career, is that there were bulldozers going straight up the drainage. And talking with my neighbors who lived across the way, they said they were seeing trees, giant oaks, just being pushed over. And there's been a golden eagle nest they've been watching, and it stopped showing up. So, and then other neighbors who live in the area who had graded roads and done a lot of the construction work in that area and runs the quarry there, he was well aware of what roads were there prior and after the work. And then to see the stop orders and nothing happened. So I've worked on properties where we've done restoration of illegal roads. It's a lot of work. It's a matter of recontouring, of vegetating with native species. All of that needs to happen before you move forward. See if I think that pretty much wraps it up. I thank you very much for your time and appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mike Reeves, you may approach the podium. And you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Mike Reeves. I would like to address something that I did not see in the CEQA report, and it's just one of many objections. We have had the ability to watch this mountain for the years living there since 1995. And during that time, I've observed at least 2 nesting pairs of eagles and seen at least 3-4 seasons of them fledging to flight young. Once the Wilsons started work on this project, it was less than a season before those eagles were gone. Once the work stopped in 2018, it took 4 years for these birds to come back. I know that once the Wilsons start work again, they will continue to carve up that mountain, and these eagles will leave again and they will not come back. We were all concerned when we first talked to Mr. Wilson that his intention, his primary reason for getting this property was to run his off-road vehicles. This mountain should be a wildlife sanctuary, not a place to run off-road vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you.
Charles Wilson, you may approach the podium.
The applicant. The applicant can have more time.
Please go ahead and speak. We're not putting you on a time.
Okay, thank you very much. Board members, in the beginning, I did do some things that I'm not proud of. I hadn't done really any building before. You know, it's like I had an engineer say, oh yeah, we can make this happen. And in the beginning, I put a cargo house up on a hill that I'd never planned on getting a permit for, never planned on doing anything. I was just gonna go there and stay there on the weekends. And I never intended to make that a house. You know, I was just gonna have it for kind of like a cabin. I'd never planned on living there full-time or anything. But on the lower level, you know, we paved the driveway, we did all the engineering, we did the compaction, we did a 25-foot driveway, 350 feet long, we did the retaining walls. We had the fire department out there. They told us that, hey, you know, this is really steep, but you know, you put in a $20,000 pipeline for us, a wharf hydrant at the street, we'll sign off, and you could keep that up there. I had I thought we were in favor of that. I was going to retaining wall that all the way up, and pave it. We've got engineering to go with concrete, with a vertical, because it's you know, it's steep, and you know, I really didn't really think about, you know, I thought that I was just up off the hill there, and, you know, and I see I've spent $250,000 in 5 years, and everybody thinks that I haven't done anything trying to retro this. Every year we went and we taped the hill, we did the wattles, we had inspections. I haven't been there in 5 years, and I've just been every month, you know, writing the check, thinking that I thought that we were going to get a permit, we were going to get to keep the cargo thing with all the engineering. You know, it's like, if they were going to not allow this in the beginning, why didn't they say, this is never going to happen? Why did we do the $37,000 secret report? Say, drag that stuff off the hill, put the hill back. Yeah, you can build down there in the bottom. I never dreamed it would be 5 years and $250,000. And everything that I was told, I jumped through every hoop along the way to get there. And just like running a 6-inch water line all the way down that driveway with a hydrant at the bottom of it. And, you know, and they didn't like the slope from where my engineer had it sloped this way, so we brought in 20 semi-truckloads of base rock, built it up a foot, sloped it the other way, paved it 3 inches thick, poured a curb down the outside all the way up it, you know, and I've been trying to comply for 5 years. And it was like, in the beginning, I made a lot of mistakes, you know, and I had, every time we've gone to the county, it was like the SECA said, hey, you do what this SECA report says, and we will be in favor of your project. You know, and until last Thursday, it was like, what, they're not gonna approve it? Oh my God, what happened? So at that point, I'm thinking, you know, I'm 63 years old, and I've been dealing with this for 5 years trying to make it right. And it's like in the beginning, and I never said I was gonna open an off-road park. At the time, my kids were racing cars, and I go, I'd like to have a nice shop that we could store the cars in there. It was never gonna be for hire. You know, we had monster four-wheel drives ripping up the hillside. We have 3 off-road vehicles that are licensed with spark arresters. You know, it's like, and I haven't had a bunch of people out there. It's only been family. You know, I have that little cargo box up there with a swimming pool. I was up there with my 5 grandsons, swimming in that pool, playing on that deck. You know, it's like, but yes, I've made some mistakes, but I've spent $250,000 trying to rectify it. And I thought we were gonna do whatever the secret report said. I thought when the fire marshal signed off saying he would protect it, but it looks like that's not the case. You know, so we were really blindsided Thursday. And it's like, you know, I mean, like the Reeves, they took 25 semi-truckloads of dirt and built a motorcycle track in their front yard for 10 years for their son. You know, it's like, you know, opinions and attitudes and things change. You know, I understand that.
Okay.
But, you know, I did make some mistakes, but I'm trying to make it right.
Okay.
And, you know, it's like, I've got 121 acres, and I did a 40 by 60, and I'm trying to build a 40 by 100 home.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Is there any additional public comment?
Yeah, my next speaker card is for Kyle Wilson.
Kyle Wilson, Monterey County. Thank you for having us, commissioners. I'd like to address you as a whole, and I'd like to say that a lot of it is the application process. You know, like for an owner builder, we need to have an application with bulletins, and this is where you start and this is where you end. You know, we came in, and I wasn't involved in any of the excavation, but my brother was, twin brother. I've never been on the dozers out there cutting dirt. We came in, and I was trying to legalize the process. I got correction notices by Stacey Watson. We had a meeting, we went through the bulletin points of what we needed to do to get legalized. And then about a year later, we had a meeting with Dwayne Daphne and an engineer at the county, along with my 2 structural engineers and a civil engineer and the draftsman, to sit down and go through the corrections. The corrections was going straight to building permits. So we had to submit complete applications with complete engineering, complete soils reports on everything. And then after we submitted that, a month later, we came back saying, we need a conditional use permit. After the conditional use permit, they came and said, now we need a CEQA review. So along the whole lines, you know, and the other problem with the application process is you don't get one pamphlet for corrections. They send you 5 or 6 different sheets from every individual component for a correction. So on every application, like even just me getting that bottom driveway and retaining wall signed off, I thought that was a feat of my lifetime, and that took almost 2 years on its own. It was 6 different revision processes just on a retaining wall. But I think the whole process of the county needs to be changed a little bit for the common owner builder. You know, we're trying to push the cost of housing up, but you can't let a owner builder build anything because we don't know the process. And there's nowhere to learn that, except for trial and error. And that's where we're at today.
Okay, thank you. Is there any public comment?
So our last speaker card is Christine Kemp, the applicant's representative. Would you like to hear her?
Yes, 3 minutes, please, since the applicants have already spoken.
I put on the speaker card that I'd like to be called first as the applicants. I have a PowerPoint that I presented that I wanted to show to you.
Okay,
So,
sure. More information, the better.
okay, I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Okay.
Is it still timed?
No.
I'm hoping not. Okay. Thank you so much.
Is this yours?
Appreciate the technical help.
No worries. Okay. This one right here.
Can you open it?
Yeah.
Put it on slideshow. Okay.
Yeah, if CMAP could pull up the slide presentation, please.
How do I advance it?
You just press the space bar.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Christine Kemp, and I'm here on behalf of the Wilsons. Appreciate your time today. I do. We were concerned we wouldn't have enough time to make our presentation. I wanted to reiterate what both Mr. Charles and Kyle Wilson have said. And I also want to explain that this is a project that has 3 segments. The lower segment is the driveway, and I'll show you a slide of that. And then where the tan is, we don't have a unit there. That's not built. There was some grading there, but there's nothing there. That's where they'd like to put the house and the garage below. Then we go up an old road along. It's an old mining road that paved, and we get to the blue area, which is where they have done the grading. And I think that's really the serious area of contention. And then the grading goes up, and then we have the green area, and that's the little cargo container that they turned into just kind of, like they said, a place to hang out with a little swimming pool. They don't sleep there, don't stay there. It's just a place to recreate. I also want to dispel that they haven't been trying to fix this. They've been trying to fix it for 5 years. They got a compliance order in October 2nd, 2018, and that compliance order that was signed by Stacy Watkins, October 9, 2018. That's following up a meeting that they had where they were instructed what they needed to do to resolve the code violation. The code violation letter itself says, apply and obtain building permits to legalize the retaining wall located adjacent to San Juan Canyon Road, and to submit applications for building permits to legalize the unpermitted structures and plans, and include information related to the structural engineering mechanical. So that's what they were instructed to do. On October 2nd, they got the county encroachment permit to enter that driveway onto San Juan Canyon Road. October 15, 2018, they did the weatherizing. They put the sediment rolls, wattles, and they did a topo map that showed the areas that were over 30% slope. There's examples of the weatherizing that they've done. They have not had erosion since this weatherizing went in, so it's not correct that it's been draining, and even in this really What winter we had, it's not eroded further. More evidence of the work they've done. This was done back in 2018, so it's been there for quite some time, and it's stabilized at this point. Again, more weatherizing. They were instructed to submit the building permits for the cargo and the driveway retaining walls. They submitted the driveway retaining wall permit in 2019. That had a building permit that was issued by them, by the county. And this is the entrance road that has the building permit and the walls, and the encroachment permit off of San Juan Road. So that's one element of the project. And that's an after-the-fact permit for that as well. We understood that the building permit, is already issued for this project. They did meet in August of 2019 with Dwayne Daphne, as Kyle mentioned, and again, it was reiterated that you need to submit building permits. Along in that meeting was Belinda Talubin of Soil Surveys, and I'll show you the work that these folks prepared. I've got copies of them as well. They prepared, this doesn't look like much. This is about $230,000 worth of engineering and reports done by civil engineers, structural engineers, designers, soils engineers. So Belinda, they met with them, and the consensus was that just go directly to building permits. For what you need, do your building permits after the fact, and that will address your code violation. So they submitted an application for a building permit, 2 applications to legalize the units. Here's just a front page of 19 plans, detailed engineering drawings, 19 pages of engineering drawings for the projects. This is that driveway. This shows the site plan at the top here. Again, more engineering drawings for the road. We have structural plans. I mean, detailed. I didn't want to bore you with 20 pages of structural plans, but I want you to see the level of detail that they did to address these issues. They have not been ignoring what the county has asked them to do by any means. Cargo structural calculations, again, a very thick document with all the calculations as to why the cargo structure is safe and can be there. Soil Surveys did a percolation test, and that percolation said we find that the proposed septic areas are suitable for the proposed site. Soil Surveys did a geotechnical, how do I go back? Is there one to go back? Down, up. Okay, Soil Surveys did a percolation test. Okay, well, the Soil Surveys letter maybe is there. Soil Surveys also did a geotechnical investigation, and all these letters are dated 2018. You know, they did not ignore what the county asked them. That geotechnical said that we find that the project site is suitable for the proposed use with the recommendations contained herein. So they also spoke with the fire department. As Mr. Wilson spoke, the fire department said, we can service you. You're going to have to make some changes, fire hydrants, certain things, but we can service you if you do those items. So all of those reports, all of that work, all those permits, $230,000 worth of work to do over the last 5 years to do what the county asked them to do. This is a picture of the lower area, and I just point that out because this is the area where they're most interested in putting the 2-story unit with a garage underneath and the duplex where Mr. Wilson wants to live. The project for that was submitted in those project plans in 2019. So this has been here, it's not new, and if the county had a major issue with that, would have been nice to know that back when this was submitted, rather than going forward with a $38,000 CEQA report. So this information has all been there to the county, and this is the level of detail with what has been submitted. Then once all of the was submitted, then they said you needed a use permit. So they went ahead, they submitted another $9,000 for the use permit that they were told they were needed. And then once they submitted that, let's see, about a year later, no, that was not true. A month later, they said that you needed the CEQA review. And that's where I became involved, because they were being asked to sign a CEQA contract. I worked with Joel, the county council, on the terms of what the contract should be for the reimbursement for the CEQA document. They signed a CEQA contract for $37,850 to do a CEQA review. Here's the reimbursement agreement signed by Kyle Wilson in March of 2021 and signed by Joel Ellenwood, Assistant County Counsel. Again, county's aware of what we're doing. They're encouraging us to get the permits and do what we need to do. In a year later, I still haven't heard anything. County's gone totally silent. So I asked to find out the status of the permit. Another year later, now we're 2 years into from when the reimbursement agreement was signed. No fault of the Wilsons. They've been working diligently. 2 years later, and after they paid, they get the CEQA document comes back in, and that was released May of this year. Then, and we still thought, I was talking to Michael about conditions of approval and the CEQA mitigations and some issues I wanted to resolve. At no time during our discussions did they say, well, don't worry about it because we're going to recommend denial. I really, in good faith, thought we were headed to this hearing tonight for recommendation for approval with conditions that needed to happen for the permit to legalize and resolve the code violation. So, after 5 years in attempting to address the violations and doing everything, spending over $230,000, now they're just like, well, never mind. We're not going to recommend that we approve your project because you're building over 30%. And honestly, that's just a very tough pill to swallow at this point, after we've been led to believe that we would be getting the permit. And so our request for the continuance was getting that last moment, change on what the whole process was, to say, well, let's regroup and look at a different, if you want a different process, then let's look at a different process. But they acted very much in good faith, and if the public doesn't believe that they were trying to remedy it, it's not correct. They've been working very hard, spent a lot of money, worked very closely with county, and it's unfortunate that we're here today. I was really optimistic we were going to come today with a positive staff report, and I got no heads up, no notice that it was going to be negative, other than an email on Thursday saying, here's the staff report, and by the way, we're recommending denial. So that's where we are.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. It's good to understand everything before we decide what we're going to do.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the extra time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Now, before we close public comment one last time, is there any public comment?
There is officially no more public comment in chambers.
Wonderful. Whoop. If you'd
Can you
come to the
approach-
podium, please, so it's on the record. You're the applicant, so it's not considered public comment, so public comment is closed, and then you have a few moments to finish whatever you have to say, sir.
And like, in so much total good faith, we reenacted our driveway permit, and right now, as of today, they're running a 6-inch water main to the street for the fire department, and my deal with them was a 20,000-gallon tank to supply all of San Juan Canyon with water at any time they needed it. And just that one piece of pipe was over $12,000 for that piece of pipe. And not any labor, not the wells fitments, nothing. And, it's like, I was like blown away on Thursday, because if someone would have told me 5 years ago, this is never going to pass, you need to drag it off the hill, I would have been living in San Juan Canyon already. So I'm like devastated, blown away.
Thank you. Back to the commission. Any comments, questions, concerns? What is the will of the commission? Any comments or questions first? Okay,
Sure.
we'll start at your end. Commissioner Bianchi.
My head is reeling here. For you folks that are opposed to this, I understand, but on the other side, I can't fault all blame to the Wilsons from 2018 to 2023. Obviously, they've been working on this, and whatever ball was dropped, I know staff, the change of staff and code enforcement and everything, you gotta lid some, I don't want to say appease to the Wilsons, but I mean, that's been quite a process. And it shouldn't be that way. And that's why I asked the applicants earlier tonight about the process. And it sounds like we have some parts that are broke. And I don't know if they need to be fixed. I don't know exactly. I know, in 2018, I believe you weren't here, correct?
I was.
You were? Have you worked on this the whole time?
Not the whole time. It was in a different capacity. It was on the building department, the code enforcement side that was dealing with it until about, the submittal of the use permit, grading permit. I'll let you continue.
Well, I mean, it just, I'm not going to say I'm opposed or in favor of it at this point, but, when it first hit me, it was like, no, this is not going to happen. I mean, my heart goes out because, it's been a lot of money and a lot of time for a process that is clearly, for lack of a better word, broken, flawed. So I'd like to hear what the rest of the commission has to say.
Commissioner Scagliotti?
Why all of a sudden did the planning department decide that they were going to deny all this? What is the reason for all of a sudden denial?
Well, I'll need to step back a bit. I need to correct one thing that was said earlier. The county was not, in general, the county does not say it's in favor of a project or be opposed to a project when a use permit or grading permit or that kind of application is submitted. It's discretionary. It's always discretionary. And in any case, this much grading, especially in this setting, will need some level of CEQA work. So with CEQA, the purpose of CEQA is to disclose the effects of projects, and in doing so, it also works out issues with the project. And so this was what was intended with this process. It would have needed to go through the CEQA process anyway, and so it did. In this case, we were in a contract with a CEQA consultant who prepared a document. We had a draft. It needed more attention to the idea that it had to account for all the work that had been done prior to a permit. And that included, among other things, the biological matter, the question of habitat on the property. And we did have a biological survey given to us to identify habitat, but we still had, we were still compelled to address the matter of other habitat, especially that identified by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife as critical habitat for California red-legged frog. It was a challenge to get guidance on that. There is no feasible way that I could see, other than full restoration, to mitigate the loss to habitat on site. So the question was how to do it off site. It was very difficult to get guidance for that, and that was one part that took a lot of time. I could have been a lot more assertive in finding a way to get answers to that question. And it took me a long time to get answers to that question, in part because I could have been a lot more assertive in getting answers to that question. But it was a challenge to find staff on the other end also to get an answer to that question. Eventually, eventually I did find the answer to that, and so now we have the CEQA document that we have. Like I said, the idea is to disclose the effects of the activity and, in effect, come up with solutions to issues. When we got down to the completion of that process, it still didn't fully answer the questions. It came up, it mitigated issues, but it did not answer the matter that is really the heart of why the denial resolution is written as it is, that there is that very steep slope, And it's also in the setting of a very high fire hazard and geological hazard. Sure, there is a soils report that talks about working on that issue, but combine all those issues, it added up to staff looking at it and seeing denial. As for the process before the planning permit was submitted, the use and grading permit, well, actually, I could talk about that, but I wasn't in all those discussions, so I'll maybe actually step back on talking about that. I knew of the issue in 2018. At the time, it was a code enforcement matter, and the question of building permits to work toward that solution. And but the truth is that it always did need, with that volume of grading, it always did need a grading permit, and this level of discretion that is why it is coming before the Planning Commission, as opposed to something that just gets signed off by staff.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Scagliotti?
So you're telling me from 2015, when this man brought this property, till 2023, 8 years, nobody told this man that he couldn't do this by going out and looking at this and saying this is too steep? And then every time he tried to comply, you guys dropped the ball?
I honestly...
I mean, this is almost 10 years this man has been trying for this. I'm not saying I agree with what he's doing, but I don't agree with what we're doing to him.
I honestly couldn't speak for 2015, but I could speak for 2018 onward.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Commissioner Way?
Yeah, I'm really struck by the fact that often on these kinds of projects, there's a balance in the public comments, other than from the applicants themselves. And, some of the neighbors will be fine with it, and others will just be adamantly opposed. That's not the case here. I didn't hear a single neighbor supporting this project. So, for what that's worth.
Okay. Commissioner Toledo?
Okay, so thank you for public comment. I appreciate the neighbors speaking and everybody. The applicant, thank you as well. There's so much obviously to swallow. The 2015 is when the project began, right? Or when we became aware of it.
I'm not familiar myself with what was going on before 2018. Actually, no, come to think of it, it was late 2017, actually, when I first heard of it. Before that, I am not aware.
Okay.
Maybe other staff has access to
Do we have any
records.
record in regards to, I know we have a lot of information. So we started 2018 and up with the process the applicant did. But I want to know the why he didn't go get a permit, going back to why building, I know building is different than selling food items. So why, I would like to know why, if the applicant can come up here and explain that.
The cargo box house was never meant to be lived in, and kind of like it was just going to be for a weekend hangout, and we were applying for the permit at the bottom, and kind of like going with my engineer saying, can we get a 50 by 100 in here, or a 40 by 100, and
okay.
We can make that work.
And I get that.
No one ever told me that, it's like somebody would have said, hey, if you just take that off the hill, we'll give you the permit for that down there, and you don't even need the Sika thing. That was never said, and that's $37,500, and that $10,000 pipeline just for the pipe, for the fire department.
Yeah, and I heard that earlier.
Only.
So I'm going to cut you off there because I heard that, but thank you. But I still have one more question. So I know why you wanted to begin, but why so aggressive as breaking down so much part of the hill, or the road? Why so much?
It was an 8-foot wide road, about 200 feet long, and there was kind of a flat spot there where I put the cargo box.
So first it was going to be a small project, right, to hang out. You weren't gonna live there, and now you actually wanna live there.
No, that's what I was told that I had to do to make it comply. I've never wanted to live in that little thing.
So you don't wanna live there now?
I do not. You know, I want to build a 4,000 square foot home with a dividing wall for a caretaker for me, and then a storage shop down below to keep my boat and my RV.
So who's gonna live on the property?
I am, and then a caretaker for me.
So you do wanna live there?
Yes, but not in that little cargo house. It's 100, actually I own 281 acres there.
Okay.
It's a giant piece
So
of
in the
property.
beginning, why didn't you get a permit?
The cargo box was just kind of like put it up there for a weekend thing. It was so far up the mountain, I'd never planned on putting a paved road to it.
And so you just started construction and not thinking, okay, I'm gonna
And then I was
not get a
trying to
permit?
get a permit for down below, and then, everybody said.
Because
"Oh,
it
you
wasn't until your neighbors actually reported you and then they realized they didn't have a permit, right?
That's not true. I went to the county and I said, hey, I need a permit for a driveway. And they go, oh, you need an approachment permit. And I go, okay. So I bought an approachment permit. I didn't even need, I knew I needed a grading permit for the driveway.
Yes.
And when I first went down there, I go, hey, I'm gonna put a driveway right here. And they go, well, you need an approachment permit to hook to the street. And I go, okay, here's my checkbook. Do I need anything else? And then I thought, oh, well, we're gonna need a retaining wall. And then, oh, I better get an engineer.
Did you start the retaining wall before you started the permit process?
I did not.
So you went to go ask for, and then for a
I got the
permit?
approachment permit to start with.
Okay.
I'm a machinist, not really a builder.
Okay, thank you.
And, and it's like, and I have those Polarises, and there's probably 30 people on San Juan Canyon that have those also.
Okay, thank you. I
Excellent,
appreciate
okay.
your comment.
I got a question. I have a question.
Okay.
I have a question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
And you decided to put a pool up there without a permit?
It's only.
How big is your pool?
It's only 8 feet wide and 16 feet long. It's for my grandkids.
How deep?
Like 3 feet, 4 feet.
Concreted?
No, stainless steel.
Doesn't matter.
I made a little
It's a
box.
permanent pool.
Huh?
It's a permanent pool.
And it's in a deck, a Trex deck. I did a deck around it.
And did you get a permit?
No. I was trying. I thought we were on the road for it, but it's
So
like
at the time you put it in, did you get a permit?
I still don't have a permit.
I didn't ask that question,
Oh.
sir. I asked, did you apply for a permit when you went to put the pool in?
No, it's more like a hot tub, not a swimming pool. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm done.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, what is the will of the commission? Commissioner Way, do you have a motion?
Yeah, I'll move that we disapprove the conditional use permit based upon what we've heard tonight.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion to disapprove carries 4-1.
To the chair, should note that there is a opportunity for the applicant to appeal to the Board of Supervisors. That appeal has to be filed within 10 days, and in accordance with provisions of the code, with a appeal form and a fee for that.
Okay. And then we'll have discussions at another time about our processes that seem to be not working well. Okay, so we are at adjournment. Oh, Commissioner announcements. Commissioner Way.
Yes, thank you. And this is not in any way, shape, or form a criticism of staff. but I need to bring something to the public's attention, which you may or may not be aware of. This is the packet for tonight's meeting. There are 375 pages, mostly dense material in here. I received this Friday morning at 9 a.m. And the public needs to be aware that this kind of thing, you know, the packets are not always this big, obviously. But when they are, then the decisions that we're making are not always based upon intense study of every page that's within the packet, but rather more upon the summaries that are provided to us by the planning department and the RMA, and or the public comments that we hear in chambers. So to the extent that there's any way of, you know, getting the information out sooner or having less or fewer things considered in one particular meeting, or I don't know what the answer is. I'm sure staff is working as hard as they can on this. I just want to make sure that the public knows that in some cases, even some of the questions that I heard from the commissioners, and including, I'm sure, some of the things that I asked, if I had had the opportunity to pour through this completely, I would have known those answers. So for what it's worth.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioner announcements? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
I motion we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for attending.